Imagine building bridges between cultures with nothing but storytelling and dance, where every child feels rooted and every adult rediscovers the joy of diversity. Please join me in welcoming Ajanta Chakraborty, co founder of Bollywood and Culture Group, a Chicago based powerhouse in dance, publishing, and cultural education. Over the last 15 years, Ajanta has co authored the award winning Maya and Neil's India Adventure series, 15 titles and 90,000 plus copies sold, and earned the International Purple Dragonfly Book Award. She has championed ethnic dance awareness, holding a senior diploma in Bharatanatyam from Prayag Sangeet Samiti. She has guided parents and educators in raising multicultural kids. She has designed immersive cultural experiences for corporate dreams, recognized with multiple awards, including Corporate Women of Achievement and the V Awards for Best Dance and Music Company CEO, and many, many more. Under Ajanta's leadership, Bollywood and Culture Group has impacted 5,000 plus kids and adults through 500 plus workshops, all while making diversity joyful. Their work has been featured on NBC, ABC, Fox, The Sun Times, Univision, and many more. We are thrilled to welcome Ajanta to Stories Within to see how she has woven technology, storytelling, and dance into a moment that's changing lives. Ajanta, welcome to the Stories Within.
Thank you so much. I'm so honored to be here.
It's a pleasure, Ajanta. Ajanta, before we start, I have to confess, right? I'm a huge fan of your books. I know it's meant for a child, but I absolutely enjoy your books, right? The vibrant illustration and the masterful storytelling. Like it connects, like it's very relatable. I can definitely relate to it since I'm from India, so I can relate to everything that's happening. And I'm sure people who are not from India can also relate to it. Like, I don't know if people have seen, this is Let's Celebrate 5 Days of Diwali, one of her book. And look at all those cute illustrations. Like, it's so colorful. It's so, like, I enjoy reading this. I don't know if it's meant for adults, but I enjoy reading this, everything. And she has a bunch of other books, like, this is Let's Visit Mumbai, another one of my favorite. And my absolute favorite is this. Let's celebrate an Indian wedding. Like it actually takes you to an Indian wedding. It shows everything that happens in a wedding. And wow, it's enjoyable. And this is another favorite, like Holi. It tells you about the reason why we celebrate Holi, Holika. And it's such a fun and colorful books. And thank you so much for writing these books for us. And I absolutely enjoy them. So, did writing spark your imagination when you were young, or was it something that you picked up later in life?
I I wasn't actively writing when I was a child. It was basically whatever sort of came through your way, whether it was school assignments or some competition you enter, like how it is growing up in India. That was my extent of writing. However, we were very much a storytelling family. So my starting of the all the storytelling actually started with my dad. So he had this amazing storytelling ability where he would ask for a topic and he'd say, "What would you like to hear a story about?" And you'd give a topic and he would instantly make a story. And it was so fascinating, everything made up on the spot. And so that is actually, as from my childhood, what I remember of stories is actually my dad's stories, because he had this innate ability to just instantly make stories. I didn't do it by myself until I started teaching, even before I wrote. The moment I started teaching, that's when I kind of went back to telling the stories of the people that, what I was teaching, what were the stories of the people behind them, or talking about, just general folk tales of India. I feel like my story journey of actively doing that started when I started teaching. But childhood was just immersed in my dad's stories.
That's such a fun childhood, right? Like, who doesn't like hearing stories? Like, yeah, I grew up hearing a lot of stories. I totally agree. Like, when I go back and think about my childhood, my dad, again, like, he had a lot of these stories that he would share from things that I wouldn't have heard and all that. I still remember them. So I think and actually, it's nice that you have the childhood, you have, and you put them in a nice condensed format that everybody could enjoy, right? With illustrations and everything. It's absolutely wonderful. So if we can just go back to your childhood, you said your childhood was filled with stories and everything. So when did you come to US? You are in US right now. So when did you come to US, and what was your formal education? And you said you started writing later, but
Yes. So, childhood was essentially the environment we grew up in, right? It was like you either become a doctor or an engineer. My parents didn't even tell me that. They were like, you can be whatever you want. They were very different than most of the other parents. It was me. I wanted to be an engineer, just like my dad. Except he was a mechanical engineer. So as far as I went, was that I became a computer scientist. I went on computer engineering. That was my education. So my undergrad was in India. And then for my master's is the first time that I left India. That was, oh my gosh, a long time ago because I'm old. So this was 2001. And I went for Canada. That was where my master's was in computer science. And then with my first job is actually when I moved to US, which was 2003, right after I graduated. And I've been in US since then. But yeah, and then I actually continued to work as a technologist in Silicon Valley. So I was in California. I did that for about 7 years before we moved to Midwest, where we live now. So now we're in Chicago. So yeah, the journey was India to Canada to California and now in Chicago. And it was all a technology journey that kind of brought me here. And then it all changed.
wow, that's interesting to see how a technology person, a hardcore technology person who came to US, or like you came to Canada for your master's and then you came to Silicon Valley. That's like the heart of technology. Like, what made you change? What made you move away from technology? Or what happened there?
Yeah. So what happened was that when we moved to Chicago, it was because my husband got into business school. And when he did that, I still had my tech job. So I was a sugar mama. And then I basically supported him through business school. The moment he graduated, I said, all right, my turn. Yes, I supported you, and you're going to support me as I am going to try my very first attempt at starting a business. And that is when I started my own company. So that was back in 2010, 2011, around that time. And we started as, so it's called Only Bollywood Groove at that point. The culture part hadn't gotten added yet. And we started with fitness. So we used to do Bollywood fitness classes. It was a Zumba-like format. And it was so popular. Oh my gosh. The people were still riding the Slumdog Millionaire wave. And so people were still, we would have like 50 plus people in classes sometimes. It was amazing. A year later is when the kids class happened because I realized that, Chicago really needed it at that point. There was really nobody else who was teaching, Indian cultural content to kids at scale. And so that's kind of where the kids classes happened. But I started teaching dance because my background, I should also mention, so along with a degree in computer science, I also have a senior diploma in Bharatanatyam. So I am a classically trained dancer. That was my background. I've never taught it, but that's my foundation. And so when I started teaching dance to kids, and I was like, I don't want to just talk about the dance moves. It's good, but like they're not getting the full picture. And so I started by telling them the stories behind the moves. And so essentially all of our classes was never just dance only. It was dance plus the cultural education. And basically it went on like that for some time. Kids loved it. Parents loved it. Educators loved it. We kept scaling. It was great. And then it was 2016. I remember when my husband, Vivek, he said, you know what, this is great. And you're teaching all this cultural content. They should not have to come to your class to learn this. They should be able to do this irrespective of where they are located in the world. And that's kind of when the idea of the books even came about. So we call ourselves accidental authors because it was never the plan. It just happened.
Wow, that's so fun to even hear, right? Bollywood fitness, like who wouldn't even want that? And then with the kids that you said you included cultural, like was it still Bollywood dance and then you would include, I'm just trying to understand how your class was structured, like for kids, like because I think that's where the culture part came in, right? Because adults might probably know what's with Indian culture and everything. And like, how did you come up, or how was your class structured?
Yes, so the class structure, Bollywood kids is what we call them. It's something that I had to create from scratch. Nobody
Mm,
has done this before. There wasn't a playbook that I could follow to say, that particular person or company does it, let's just copy it. I had to figure that out, trial and error slowly to see what exactly works. And it is to this date what I teach. Essentially, what I do is so I don't like to use the regular filmy Bollywood dances, the
mm,
songs. What I like to use are the songs that have some kind of a folk tie, so some kind of a
mm,
folk root. And then that gives me an opportunity to then talk about the people from that region of India.
mm,
And if you look in Bollywood, it has taken music from around the country. Like it's like a perfect lens into the Indian culture, if you will. Even though a lot of that, even though it is about selling to the media, like it's based on whatever audience wants, but still, if you look carefully, you will find songs from every different part of India. And so that's what I would put. I would forever be on a hunt. I would try to find these songs that would have folk roots. I would take those songs. And then, like I said, I would use that as an excuse to essentially then talk about that region. And so the kids would learn that. So, and it was a complete interweaving. That's what I do in my
mm,
workshops. That's what I do in my classes. You listen to the stories a little, then you get up and you dance, and then you listen to the stories a little, you get up and dance, and
mm.
it keeps them engaged 100% of the time. Even the little ones, like I started at age 3, and as you know,
Wow.
age 3, they're not really known for their attention span, but it works. It works like magic in keeping them engaged. But that was the structure.
Wow, that should be really entertaining now. Like, I can only imagine how entertaining the class would be for younger kids, right? Because two things that they love. They love dance and they love story, and it's interweaved together. So that's absolutely brilliant, Ajanta. But then, since you said like you had to start everything from scratch and then build this idea, and then you have to bring it to your vision to like reality. Like, how difficult was the process? I'm sure you must have had some challenges along the way to bring your vision to reality. How difficult was it, or what all challenges that you faced?
Oh, so many challenges. I can talk all day about it. It was the ultimate hustle, if you will. As I mentioned, we just moved here in Chicago out of nowhere. I knew exactly 0 people in Chicago when I moved here.
Mm,
I had no friends, I had no contacts, not even acquaintances. And I was trying to start a business and had 0 experience in running a business. I'd never done it before.
mm,
And so every mistake that you can imagine an entrepreneur to make, I made it. But it was the most fabulous learning experience as you can imagine. Every day there was some disappointment, some obstacle that you had to go past. The biggest thing was, like I said, I didn't know anybody, and so spreading the word was
mm,
definitely a very big challenge. And the only way I could do that, because I was also operating on like a shoestring budget, the only thing I could do is put my absolute best work out so that even if there were 3 people in that first workshop that I did, they would then go and tell people and say, you must come to this. This was
mm,
amazing. That was my saving grace, is just being able to do my best workout and then kind of slowly growing one client at a time. It takes a lot of patience. It takes a lot of perseverance. The second thing was sort of the misconceptions, if you will, right? There are a lot of people love to just in general stereotype, right?
mm,
And I realized that early on that people didn't really know enough about Indian culture. I remember one of the very first workshops, I walked in and I was dressed in like a salwar kameez, not even a
mm.
lehenga. I was in a salwar kameez. I walk in, fully decked up, and this woman looks at me and she goes, "Ooh, a belly dancer." And I said, "No, wrong country." And that was so. It was like
Yeah.
it's dual. It's like, oh man, she doesn't know, but at the same time, I'm like, oh, so there is an opportunity here. There's an opportunity to
Mm,
tell people more. And so I had to continuously educate about the product while trying to sell it as well. That's
yeah.
a dual level of difficulty that I faced every single day. So a decent amount of my effort had to go towards educating and spreading the information, while the other 50% I try to sell it as well. Whereas if it's something already established, like nobody has to train people about ballet. We already know what it is. You don't have to teach people about jazz or hip hop. People know what it is. But Bollywood dance, I had to do both, which was a big challenge.
And so this one, right? So this brings me a question because the person didn't know what you were wearing, like, right? So was your class like when you began this thing, did you only have Indian kids or did you have other kids? And why was it important to spread this message to other cultural kids?
Yes, so this actually it's such a great question because it goes back to what the mission of our work is. And the mission of our work is twofold. One is connecting kids strongly to their roots, right? So if somebody's of South Asian origin and they need to see themselves represented in media, in literature, in what they're learning, right? And it helps them feel validated and also connect, nicely to their own culture. That's option number one, right? Which is why having Indian kids in my class is so important. But the second one is raise multicultural kids, which means irrespective of your ethnicity, your racial background, whichever part of the world you're from, it's important for every kid to kind of know about the world. And I can, again, speak so passionately about this because I so strongly believe in it. That is how you sort of become a kind person. That's the route to kindness, because when you know about someone, you're not afraid of them as much anymore, right? It's like that familiarity, that knowledge is what makes you a better human being. So that's the second part, which is why it was very, very important for me that I didn't just have Indian kids in my classes. So from the very beginning, I proactively looked for ways to sort of diversify the population in my class. And I did that through partnerships. Chicago, thankfully, also has a wonderful culture, which is very open in some way. They're very receptive. And so I was able to I'm so grateful to some of these organizations that were mainstream organizations. They had nothing to do with India, but they were willing to give me a platform. And they are the ones who opened their doors and say, come teach at our place, and they brought in those non-Indian audience who otherwise I had no way of reaching. Why would they do it, right? But because I was already there, they're like, let's give it a shot. And once they tried it, they're like, oh my gosh, this is so much fun. I want my child to learn this. The kid said, I want to keep doing this, right? So that's kind of how we ended up diversifying and why it was so, so important for me. It really paid off because what ended up happening is almost half and half was the sort of the split between Indian and non-Indian kids in my class. And even today, that is the case. When we started writing the books, it came so handy because by the time I did that, I already had like 5 years of experience in creating content that spoke to everybody. It didn't matter where you're from, right? I knew how to speak to the non-Indian kid as well to get them excited. You have to assume that they know nothing. But at the same time, an Indian kid can get bored either. They're like, I know this already. They can't have that feeling. So how do you strike that right balance between, assuming no background information versus somebody who knows so much about it and belongs to the culture? How do you strike that right balance of writing or creating content in a way so that's exciting to everybody? So long story short, because I can ramble about this forever, that's kind of why it was important and how I went about it.
Yeah, I totally believe and stand by you when you said that raising multicultural kids is how we make them kind because this is something that I wouldn't have thought of it. Like, yeah, because we are in a society where we are exposed to so many other cultures, and why is it important? It's a very good question, and you answered it very beautifully. So, as a woman in building a business that no one has ever done it before and building it from scratch, and because I'm just curious because that time you didn't have much of social media, so the whatever you did must have gone through only by word of mouth, right? Like how difficult was it for a woman to do it?
Yes, as a woman entrepreneur, face an entire set of challenges that you don't face otherwise. My one saving grace was that dance is not a field that you typically don't associate with women. So I do have to say that if my startup was in tech, the kind of challenges that I would have faced, I faced less than that. However,
Mhm.
there's a whole slew of things. So one is people don't take you as seriously. They
Mhm.
think you're just having fun. You're just trying to, kill some time. You're pursuing a hobby versus, hey, this is actually a serious business, right? And that is one of the things that also comes with the territory, because a lot of people, a lot of artists especially, they kind of associate a shame with calling it a business. They think that the value goes down. And so they actually separate out themselves from a business, whereas I embraced it fully from day one. And I said, I'm not
Mhm.
here to just have fun. This is a serious business. This is going to be my livelihood. And so I need to approach it in that way as well. And then you just don't get taken as seriously,
Mhm.
and you face that across audiences. It doesn't matter whether they're Indian, non-Indian. It's always the case. Um, and then, of course, becoming a mom and because my work is so physical, it's not a work that you can do on the computer, right?
Mhm.
You work with your body, and when that's the case, the journey that you take as a mom, it completely changes everything. It's disruptive, let's just be honest, right?
Mhm.
And so I was so woefully unprepared. It was when my I was about, I think, 3 4 months away from having my child. I was like, I'll be fine. I'll be able to do something pretty quickly. Let me just train one person to kind of be an admin. Well, my baby decided to come a whole month early, completely caught me unprepared, and I suddenly realized, oh my gosh, this is going to be so much more difficult than I thought. I was so unprepared. I remember the day I gave birth at 3 in the morning. At 7 in the morning, I'm emailing my clients. I just had a baby. I might be a little late in delivering whatever I have promised you because I had absolutely no idea what I was up against. I had to, train people overnight to kind of take in
Mhm.
those places of physically
Mhm.
doing the work. Um, and and my personal challenge, and this is not true for everybody, but my mom got sick when my son was about 5 months old,
Oh.
and she got suddenly so sick that I had to actually go to India. So I left my baby in India. I went to India. I mean, in the US, I went to India to be with my mom. And over the next year, I kept running back and forth. And so I would travel with my son as well. And I I have never faced that difficult of a time in my life before or after, because you are raising your baby, you are watching your mom kind of slowly, go towards
Mhm.
the end, um, and you're trying to run a business remotely. It was the toughest phase of my life. And then a year later, my mom passed away, and then it was trying to raise a child when you're dealing with that grief of losing a parent.
Mhm.
I mean, it tests every bit of courage and ability that you have. And I just kept telling myself every one thing every day I would wake up, one day at a time. Keep the business alive. That's all you got to do. Just don't let it die. You will not be able to scale amazingly, grow amazingly, all of that stuff, which surprisingly it actually still happened. But your goal is to just survive, survive, survive. And those few years, they're like a blur.
Mhm.
But hey, I survived, and I have an 11-year-old now who is a
Mhm.
wonderful human being, and my business is still alive and thriving. So here we are.
I'm really sorry about your mom. Like, I'm really sorry. But the entire ordeal that you went through and having your business still growing and everything, it's really inspiring. So this is what I want, like the raw thing. Like, it's not easy being a mom. Like, because I have faced it personally, and I know many of my friends have faced it because you rightly put. Because when we do something, people might think, oh, she's just killing some time. It's just a hobby. It's just a passion. And it'll die out after say a couple days or a couple months. It's absolutely true, right? But then it's very hard for us to convince others, no, this is a passion, I want to do it, this is my passion. And then you give your all to let people know, like, this is a passion and I want to pursue it. So that's absolutely wonderful, the way you have done it. And yeah, kudos to you and hats off to you for that. Thank you so much. In today's Artist Spotlight, we are thrilled to feature a 9-year-old artist, Ms. Shravya Harishriniwasa. Under the guidance of her mentor, Sweetie, Shravya's creativity blossoms into breathtaking pieces that celebrate the beauty of everyday life. Not only does she wield a pencil with precision, she is also a talented jewelry maker. What's truly remarkable about Shravya is her commitment to giving back since the tender age of 5. She's been raising funds through her art to support local organizations. Her latest piece, Draped in Dawn, showcases a woman in a vibrant sari, poses mid motion, one hand fixing her hair, the other ready to meet the day's demands. Her swift gesture and flowing drapery capture the delicate balance of tradition and modern life, where multitasking becomes a testament to everyday strength and grace. It's a pleasure to spotlight this talented young artist, and we extend our warmest wishes for her future success.